Welcome to the AV Experience Rooms in Review, where we do room tours, but we do them a little bit differently than what the rest of the internet does. We break them down. We provide what we'll deem constructive criticism. The rest of the internet may not deem that, but we try and make everything for the better. We don't just want to share what people have done. We want to share what people have done well, and maybe what things could be done differently, change to make things for the better. I'm your host, Ryan Charpentier, joined as always by the ever increasingly beautiful Ben Goff. England, unfortunate for England yesterday. You watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a football fan
either.
particularly, to the dismay of my family. So I was watching the game, but about 5 minutes behind live, and I knew that England were winning when you told me. So, but alas, it wasn't enough.
Well, I thought an Englishman would at least be live, so I thought I would not. I'd be not live.
Yeah, I mean,
already
the
know.
Mexico game, I was out on a night ride in the woods. So, if you ruin an F1 result or UCI downhill mountain biking, you ruin those results, I'll be upset.
Yeah.
Football, not so much. Not
I
for
love
me.
Pickford. I was a goalkeeper through college, and he had an amazing game. Just got beat. I mean, they were tough shots. So anyway, enough about that. We're going to jump right into this. This is a pretty well put together room done by John Durant. So we're going to look at, I'm going to share my screen real quick. We're going to look at his responses here. And then Ben is going to share the images because I was having issues with this earlier. But story of the space was building a new home, and builder asked if I wanted to finish the basement. I figured, why not? They drew a layout. They drew a crappy theater. Then I did a deep dive for a few months. Always wanted a theater, but never got around to it. My father in his 80s had a few projection TVs, liked it since then. So glad I did this build. Best decision yet. 2.5 years in the house, and I'm 1,800 hours in the JVC. So decent amount. I mean, a lot of times you see projectors and they've only got a few hundred hours. So he's at least spending a good amount of time in there, a couple times a week, every week, going through some content. Description of the space: it's a basement theater, 9-4-8-6. Not sure what that means. Maybe it's 4 stacks of 2.
We've got drawings.
Okay, he's got a drawing. 11-10-6. I have not looked at anything. Ben's looked at some of this stuff. I'm going in raw here. I have a second set of rear surrounds already installed for the second row. They will likely be used when I upgrade to a Chernov CI. Also, I just built 2 GSG BTS 24s. I will be installing these shortly. These 2 upgrades will bring me to an 11-10-6. Overall, the room dimensions are 26.8 feet long, 17-11 feet wide, 10-foot ceilings. I am jealous of that ceiling height. If you would like, I can send email drawings. We do have drawings. The AV closet and rack are in a closet that is located behind the screen and front stage. He did the room dimensions. This is the list of equipment, which we'll break down here in a little bit. Positive and negatives. These are from his point of view. I think it performs very well. The designer I found in AVS, unbeknownst to me at the time, seems to follow Anthony Gramani's teachings. Art thou Anthony Gramani? So I have to say, all he did was great. I built it myself following his design. I kept it 100% to his design. Although I am continually upgrading and changing, he is always involved with the changes and does drawings for me to make sure it is done correctly. My only regret is we rushed my builder, and at the time, I didn't know how much I could have done to help sound stay in the room. Next room I build, I will be sure to make that a priority, but honestly, my home is almost 8,000 square feet. Good golly. So when I'm watching a movie, there's usually no one home, or they're on the other side of the home. Other than that, I am very satisfied. Changes, would like more time, would have focused more on keeping the sound in the room. That is the breakdown. Put up that picture, baby.
Right.
Picture 1. This is the only picture I've seen.
Okay.
It looks pretty good.
I'm still seeing your screen. I don't know if you've switched it over.
I have not shared it to you. There you go.
There we go. Okay. So let me adjust this. Do you get that? There we go. I can zoom in, right? So we can get that. So it's clearly a well put together room, right? We've just seen from a kit list that there's some high-end product in there, but I mean, we can just start, what you can see right here. This is a beautiful room with some care and attention put into it. So what do you want to look at first? We should have a proper process we follow every week to do these in the same order. But
Well,
What
let's
we
start with an initial impression based on this picture of how you think things are gonna turn out.
um my gut feeling is straight away that this room's going to perform well because clearly someone's put thought into it and
Mhm.
it's sensible. There's nothing not sensible here. There's a few talking points I've got because I did spend 10 minutes looking at this before we came on, which I know you didn't get a chance to. So I have got a few thoughts on this. Do we have a front view of the room? Yeah, we do. Right. So there's the screen. Um, if we start looking from the screen, I mean, the first thing is you can't really go any wider, right? So they filled the field of view. You wouldn't
Mhm.
really want to, I'm not a fan of going absolute wall to wall. My theory generally is within a foot of the wall. Like I don't generally go to the very edges. Reflections off walls, speaker place stuff gets a bit challenging. So the width of this screen in that room, it's right where I'd be.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I totally agree with you on the wall reflections. Um, I don't know how I feel about full absorption on first reflection points, especially for a speaker that's well behaved like the M2.
Sure.
Um, but initial impression is there's been some thought and care put into this room, and it should perform decently well. I would like to see, and this I'm being nitpicky here. I'd like to see, and I don't know what's behind that speaker cloth on those treatments. I'd like to see scatter plates.
Yes,
Um,
I don't know if they are or not
I
on there.
don't know or not. I'm not sure. I'd like to see scatter plates instead of just absorption on the walls for sure. Um, yeah, that's I'd probably like a brighter projector.
Right. I was going to say, biggest compromise for me right here, just looking at that angle. I totally get the construction of this. We don't know what's above this room, whether you could have ducted anything to it, but I'd obviously prefer that projector to be in a hush box.
Yeah, I mean that is a limitation. So you are right. I'd like to see it in a hush box. I would like to see a brighter projector. That's a large screen. How big is that screen? That screen
It is
is
161 inches wide. If I
175 diagonal. That is
Yes,
a big boy for that
uh,
JVC.
yeah, 161 wide,
Big
170 diagonal.
boy for that projector, and that's a JVC NZ9 with a Panamorph. So he's getting all 3,000 lumens onto that screen.
Yeah,
But
he's
man,
using all the light. Um, my normal kind of theory is that that projector, to me, with the kind of screen fabrics we use,
mhm.
I would go up to 3.5 meters wide. Obviously, metric here. This works out at 4.1 wide. Um, he's keeping all the light on it. I think, do you know what? I reckon he's getting enough on there for it to be punched. What was the screen fabric? Remind me what the
It's a
fabric
Studio
is.
Tech 130, so he chose correctly.
Okay, so he's got some gain.
Yes.
I reckon he's right in that limit of where I'd be happy. Would I like more light? Sure. But more light from here generally comes at the expense of some contrast.
Now, I'm
That's
gonna give him the benefit of the doubt here and just kinda guess at what he was thinking, and if John, if you're watching, please correct us if we're wrong. I'm gonna guess that he values native contrast over brightness. And if that's the case, it was the correct choice in at the time, right? Gotta remember, this is an NZ9. This is at least it could be up to 6 years ago. So it's I don't think this is the wrong choice. The QLs didn't exist, and granted, that is a total departure from native contrast. A Christie or a Barcode, 'cause the Heimdall didn't exist, would not work because it would have to go in the back of the room. You're not really gonna be able to hang those from the top. So, I think given his choices, it's probably
you.
one of the, if not the best choice he could have made.
Would you not get a Heimdall there?
He can't fit it wasn't out when this room was
No,
built.
no, no, no. But right now, I mean,
Right now, you could,
if
yes.
I was changing anything off the bat, right? Let's just say there was loads of budget, and I know he talks about building another room in the future and things he's learned from this one. If I was going to change anything off the bat, Barco Heimdall Plus or a Christie equivalent. You know, I don't know the Christie range very well, but for me, a Heimdall Plus, keeping this form factor screen, they do a specific CS version that's natively scope shape. Yeah, I'm
So
changing that immediately. It's
in
so
this room,
quiet. You do not need a hush box for that
yeah,
projector.
for anybody that doesn't know, the Barco Heimdall is their newest projector that they've released. It's a native, it's a 4K. They do some shenanigans on the chiplet that I think I'm saying that right, that they actually it's native 5K or 6K, I think, in the Heimdall. But its benefit is that it is obscenely quiet,
Yeah,
ridiculously quiet, even at the full 6,000 lumens. It is, you don't even know it's on kind of quiet. I don't know how they did it, but it is absurdly quiet for what it is. And Barco's Dynablack, now that they've gotten it kind of dialed
yeah,
in, is really good for
yeah,
dynamic dimming. As far as what's on the market, I think Dynablack, Vader's not out yet, VDR from Christie.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it's going to be better. I don't know. I've never put them head to head, but for what's out right now, Dynablack I would put is the top. It is absurdly good for what it does.
Right. And yeah, I mean, what you said with the Heimdall, I guess the first time I saw one in person was probably the same time you did. I reckon it was a demo room
ISE a
at
couple
Expo.
years ago.
Was it ISC? I was seeing it was an Expo room. Yeah, maybe you're right. And you listen to it and you go, okay, it's a pre-production unit. It's really quiet, but we're on a show floor. There's a lot of noise. Yeah, it sounds great. I'll make a judgment when I get one in a room. And you get one in a room and go, yep, it really
Is
was
it
that
even on?
quiet.
Yeah. But
It's
anyway,
great. I
enough
love it.
about the hypotheticals of projector.
Yeah,
I think he
so
made the correct choice based on what
100%.
was available. He did
100%.
the anamorphic lens. He chose the correct screen to gain some gain back or some light back from that. It's a huge screen. You potentially, because it is a really wide screen, one of the drawbacks with a high gain screen is you can get into some hot spotting. Because remember, a high gain screen isn't creating light, it's rerouting, redirecting light to different
Yeah,
areas. So because of that, you can get some hot spotting. Now, the GT or the ST130 does a really good job of hiding some of that, but when you get really wide, it's still going to be a problem. Even if you're sat in the center, you can get some differentials in what looks to be screen brightness as you move from the center on out. Anything else on the video side? I'm not a huge fan that it's micro perf, but that was a compromise that he had to make to get the gain back.
yeah. Let me quickly change to a different screen and we'll look at his viewing geometry. So if I go in here, replace window, Vectorworks. Cool. So I decided to draw on it. I didn't import it to scale, but I have drawn the correct angles on there. So one of the things that I would say, and I don't know if you noticed from that first photo,
Can you
is
zoom in?
that his
Zoom in.
back row.
Keep going. Keep zooming. There you
Okay,
go.
I need to adjust my window. Right, is that okay?
Yeah,
So,
that's better.
so his back row over here is actually a bar. He's got a bar and bar stools.
Oh, okay.
Right, and I love that. We do this quite often. I love getting that bar in the back
It
because
is. There's a caveat though, and it can muck with sound. So it is a
sure,
compromise.
got to get it
But,
right.
but, so in my opinion, so are theater seats in a lot of
Right.
applications. They themselves can be a compromise for audio. People don't think that, but anything that gets in the way, and those backs of those chairs surely do get in the way a lot of times, is a compromise. I do like the bar though.
So from a front seat, and these are I calculated these numerically and drew them on, and I came out within half a degree of each other. So I'm gonna call that fair. I calculated it as 59.4. I've drawn it at 58.97. Right. So call it a 59-degree viewing angle from the front.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I was quite on record, like 52 to 54 was what I loved. I've grown, right? More time I spend with bigger screens, the more I enjoy
Bigger
a
is
bit
better,
bigger.
baby.
58 to 65 is where I'm personally comfortable. And I would say of all the things that are black and white, are right or wrong, screen size preference is a preference, right? There is no real right or wrong. Everyone has a different preference. And I'm not going to say anything is right or wrong, but 59 is right.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw another caveat out there and compromise, and that is when you start getting into these larger screens, just something to keep in mind, sports can become a problem because when you start getting things moving back and forth, it can induce a sense of motion sickness, even if you're not privy to it because it's so big. So just something to think about. I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
wrong.
and
I'm just
I know
saying it's something to
you'd
think
lose
about.
some light and you do lose some resolution, but if that became a problem on this scope screen,
Mhm.
you could put a 16:9 sports image in
Yeah,
it. You know, you become way narrower,
you
feel the
could.
height, and actually it would probably stay pretty comfortable.
You absolutely could. There are ways to get around that. Now, you would need to make sure that you have the available zoom to be able to do that or have a video processor like a Mad VR that's able to shrink things down using screen boundaries.
Yeah. So here's why I love this bar. If you know there are times like I'm going to say Super Bowl because I'm going to
Mhm,
presume it is in the US and you guys all love the Super Bowl, right? If you know that Super Bowl Sunday you need to seat 12, then
mhm,
you need 12 capacity.
mhm.
If you'd gone with three full rows, you've got to bring the middle forward to get space for the rear. You bring
Yep.
the front forward. Suddenly the front ends up at maybe 70 degrees. It's not pleasant for day to day. Your middle becomes great, but slightly on the lower side. It will have ended up around 50 something, not quite perfect for me. Then the back row sits at 35. But you then have this huge differential from what would have been way over 70 once you've
Mhm.
moved these forward. But the bar, but I've taken the head of a bar here, if you can see that, and the head of a seat here. We're talking 5 or 6 degrees difference between those two rows. The visual experience from the bar is really not dissimilar to that back row of seats. You
Yeah.
haven't suddenly got this massive difference because you needed to get a third row in, and you've not pushed the front row so far forward that it's awful. So if you'd come to me and said, I have to be able to occasionally seat 12, but generally it will be 4 to 8, that's where I'd have ended up.
I agree. Either that or have substantial room in the front for things like beanbags and removable chairs.
Sure. And I've still got no problem throwing kids down
Yeah.
there on beanbags and stuff. You've got, these are all chaise type seats. You can pile a couple of people on these. So you can increase capacity. But realistically, I am a much bigger fan of 8. Like, to me, this is 4 seats used day to day by the family. It's
Mhm.
4 overflow seats that are still really good that anyone's happy in. 4 seats at the bar that are occasional use, but they are not bad at all. And you could have made that a lot worse if you tried to put 12 seats
And we're
in.
gonna talk about this in our new series, the 10 things to think about or whatever number of things to think about when designing and building a home theater. But primary principle and primary thing to think about here is how many people are gonna be using this day to day?
Right.
And that is really important to answer because it's going to define how you build the room around those seats and where those seats need to go. So if John has decided that whatever his primary seating location is, it's those 4 seats, he can potentially not detract the experience in order to more evenly distribute things around the room. Now, this is a large room, so he does get some better distribution of sound due to how sound propagates in the loss of 6 dB over a doubling of distance. It's bigger, so it's going to be more easily you're more easily able to deal with that in a larger space. But answering that question at the beginning allows you to define how you're going to design the rest of the space. And then using seats like the bar in the back allows you to not compromise or minimally, it does compromise in a way, minimally compromise that primary experience or
Yeah.
primary use case. All on board.
So while I've got the drawing open, before we go back to some photos, I can move this now because I haven't got the angles coming off. Let's just run through something because I may have this wrong and I may have misread this, but I am saying this yellow box is the center of our speaker layout for the height speakers. I believe these 6 circles are our overhead speakers.
So you're assuming, based on this, that the middle row is the primary? We really don't know, actually, because it's in the middle.
If this was my room, the front row would be the room I would be sitting in. Because for me, that's the better viewing angle. 59 degrees is absolutely what I love. So
but did he do it intentionally where that second row has the actual middle seat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting the head of middle row back slightly further. So actually, I think you've got a split where the middle speakers are in between. Like this is a walkway through here. So your middle speakers are not directly above either of those 2 rows. So I'm going to say that's where they are. Now I'm just going to flag up, because this is where I need you to look at this with me and tell me if I'm being crazy or not. Let me share our image again. I've got to find what I've actually done with that on my screen.
I think that middle seat is the primary.
Yeah, very possibly. But let me show you these speakers. So if you can see my mouse, I think the rear is here. And I think the middle one is here. They're not in a straight line. I don't think this is built as it's drawn.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah. Hold on. Can I zoom in on that? Yeah, I can.
What speakers are those? Are they a JBL horn? Yeah, they are.
That's as much as I can zoom in. But
so JBL Synthesis SCL8. Let me see.
Look at over here. So look on the far side, quite close to the coffer. Look at the back. They're not spaced straight.
And you sure that back one's not a light?
I don't believe so, because
I think the speaker's actually back behind that treatment. I think
you think
it's
behind that diffuser.
I think it's back there, because if you look at that,
and let me bring the drawing back up again.
If you look at that rear, whatever that is, it looks like a light. If you look at the soffit to the right, it looks exactly like that light.
Then if I bring up the drawing, which drawing is that one? Let's just find it without going back to Vectorworks. So that's the drawing. If that is the case, oh God, I'm rubbish at zooming these things. Then I believe these are all the lights. These are the speakers. So the lights are drawn on the lower part of the soffit, not in the raised ceiling. All the lights are drawn on the soffit. So one way or another, what we're seeing, these are the lights round here. These are lights. These are like in here. These are the speakers. Gotta be.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can see it. That's a speaker.
Okay, it's further back, and you can see the one in the middle. It's as drawn.
Okay, maybe that is straight. Okay.
I do have an issue with that, though. And my issue is that is really close to a boundary.
Yeah, maybe I'm just seeing it as an optical illusion, but it just doesn't look straight to me.
They're straight, but I do have an issue with it. It's really close to that box vault boundary, and it's firing down into the light tray.
Yeah. So this was where I was going to go, right? So if I bring back the drawing, which one was it? Right. So in fact, actually, I'm going to do it in Vectorworks so that I can show you what I mean by drawing on it. So that's the area our speakers cover. And that is pretty much our seating positions. Maybe I've made that a tiny bit small. Maybe it's slightly to here. But that's the, if that's where all the heads are going to go, right? The middle of head. So you're going to get a middle of head on a sofa here. It's going to be under this acoustic treatment. It's in here somewhere, right? That seat. So yeah, I better have pulled that too far forward, right? So there's our listening area.
Yep.
and there's our speaker area. Now, I don't know who the designer of this was, and I apologize. You know, I don't suspect the designer of this knows that we're critiquing their work. Generally, I would not critique another professional's work without their knowledge. So, you know, it's been submitted by the owner. I don't know if the designer knows that we're looking at it. But I would say, as the client has said, they follow the Tony Gramani sort of thought process. And I know that Anthony has gone on record as saying that he often brings the overhead channels in a bit narrower to create more separation from the surrounds. These, to me, for my taste, are too narrow because we have got people sat wider than the speakers are. If you are sat on the wide seat, information that was intended to be on your left could sound to be on your right and the other way around. So to me, the outer, what they've done is they've prioritized separation for the kind of the four best seats, the middle row, at the expense of some accuracy of the outer row.
And that's not necessarily bad. It depends on the
Sure.
design philosophy and what you're trying to go for in the room.
Right.
I would
It's
counter
my
that, and
preference.
if you went further out, you increase, and it actually looks like these speakers are close further in than they are in the room. You
Right.
increase issues with boundary interaction.
Yeah. And that's the thing is we don't know, because we don't know what's above this, that head height to get this raised section is great. And I would definitely want to use the raised section for those speakers.
Mhm.
I don't want to go too close to boundaries. So it would have been great if I wouldn't necessarily have dropped that ceiling if it was an option. You lose the lighting detail. You know, it's pretty. From a technical perspective, I probably would have preferred not to drop it and give
Yeah.
myself more placement.
Yeah.
So that's an aesthetic, technical decision.
Yep.
You compromise one over the other. For me, I like the height that raised section gives. I'd want to go a little bit wider without encroaching on the suspended part. I also have a bit of concern about the skyline diffusers. So I don't use skyline diffusers very often at all, and I don't ever put them above seats as they are here. Let me window. Which one do I want? This one. Nope. Yep, that one. So I just have a concern that with the depth of the diffuser, you've got even more things for, you know, from this seat down at the front. Once you take the front row, those
Mhm.
rears, there's going to be quite a lot of diffraction off of the diffusers. Like they're going to play quite a role, even in the direct sound that's reaching. Like take the middle row. When you're on the far side of that, there's going to be diffraction off that nearest diffuser,
Yeah.
almost certainly. I personally don't think Skylines are very. I don't necessarily like their performance as a diffuser or a scatterer, and the depth of them there isn't what I would have done. So
Yeah.
I think they work. I think they probably are breaking up some slack echo from the floor.
Sure.
It's not how I would personally do it,
I would
and I know
agree with
plenty of
that.
people do, but it's not how I would do it.
I think they do what they're supposed to do, but there's compromises that I would not be happy with that they also bring to the table.
Right.
I think, and don't overthink this, guys. You ask, this is important to realize. You ask 7 different room designers, you're going to get 7 different answers. I mean, so don't take anything that Ben and I are saying as gospel. Don't think that we're necessarily calling this guy out and saying he's wrong. This is just what we would do in this particular
Yeah.
instance. That's all this is. And frankly, this room was designed probably 3 or 4 years ago. And the designer may not do that anymore. If I look back at my work from 3 or 4 years ago, Ben, if you do the same thing, we've learned a lot since
Yeah.
then. We're on our own
100%.
journeys. What I would use in this instance is I'd probably use, if I was putting diffusion up there, I say this all the time, I'd use scatter plates.
Right.
They're not in the way as much. They're not going to be creating as many sightline issues with the speakers and creating diffusive compromises. lower profile. Um, I'd have to look at what they're treating. I know I'd have to look at the dispersion for all of the speakers, what energy is actually making it up there. But
Yeah, I mean, these depend on what they're made of. Different brands make them out of different things. I've seen them made out of hardwood, out of softwood. I've seen them made out of expanded
foam, plastic,
polystyrene.
yeah,
So I would want them. Well, it depends what we need to do to the decay time in the
it
room. But
does.
generally, if I was using that product, which is designed to scatter, I would want minimal absorption on it. Like I would be using it as a scatter plate. Um, when these are made of like polystyrene, actually they're quite absorbative,
Yeah,
and the frequency range that they would scatter fairly well, they actually absorb a lot of that. So that and the lower frequencies they don't absorb, the wavelengths are too long for them to scatter
yeah,
well. So it depends what they're made of, how effective they are.
it does.
Um,
You gotta figure out what you're trying to manage first. Like, figure out what you're trying to do and then pick the appropriate
right.
management material in order instead of just saying, "Oh, I need X, Y, or Z. I can pick whatever
Yeah.
fits my budget." It
And
doesn't work that way. And the other thing to look at in conjunction with this, the room's carpeted.
right. And that's
So
why I say I wouldn't want absorption there, because I think you've got enough high frequency absorption already.
yeah,
I think the high frequency is going from a carpet. That's fine. You know, I would always say treat the carpet or the ceiling. My preference is ceiling and a hard floor. That's because we have more
got more
flexibility
control.
to do that. That would be my choice. But with a carpet, I would try and keep the ceiling broadly diffusion rather than absorption.
Yep.
Um, Superfly said, "What do I prefer?" Now, there is a panel that I've not used particularly, but I'm aware of, called a good panel, a GUD panel. And I think it's pretty much the only panel I know that is pure diffusion and scattering without any, like, it is not an absorber at all. If you use a binary amplitude diffuser, which is what we use a lot more of, to get the phase shift that creates the diffusion from a binary amplitude diffusion panel, it has to have some absorption. A bad panel does not work without the absorption. Like the absorption is really key to it, for how the diffusion works. So our designs normally are using binary amplitude on the ceiling, but we're using it aware of how much absorption we've got in the rest of the room, so we can have absorption with scattering on the ceiling without over absorbing the high frequencies. And
Yeah.
that's where bad panels on the ceiling, hard floor. That's our typical option. So yeah, these things you've got on screen right now, they are not absorbing, right? It is a proper pure diffuser.
And based on what we said earlier, it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you are absorbing on the floor using carpet, it is recommended that you, at least by me and Ben, that you primarily use diffusion on the ceiling. There are times when you want to use levels of absorption, but I would limit the amount of absorption if you have well-behaved speakers on the ceiling in order to not create an overtly dead environment.
Right.
However, if you what you're going after is a more dead environment, because there's nothing wrong with that, if that is the pathway you are taking, then choose accordingly, right? If you're wanting like a exact this is where everything is, and instead of creating something that's more diffusive, which gives you a wider soundstage, a deader environment may be something that you want to do, and
Right.
adding more absorption on the ceiling would be appropriate. But this all goes back to this new series we're doing, and I'm not trying to advertise this. This is just happenstance. Figuring out what you want to do in the space first. And that very well may be why he's got these panels on the top. We're simply breaking down in a room that Ben and I would design what we would do. This does not mean that what he has done is wrong. It just means we would maybe attack it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and we don't have the data to show what the decay time in this room is. So it's easy to say, yeah, I think the good panels might behave better there, but I don't have measurements to show how they're
Yeah.
behaving. My preference on them in theory would be they're shallower, so they'd cause less diffraction around the speakers potentially, and they're probably less absorbative and providing more scattering. So if I was doing a design from scratch, I think it's where I would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say these aren't working because I don't know if they're working or not.
So
But
John says some of the absorption panels on the top are actually empty.
right. Cool. And that makes complete sense. You know, balancing, even if these absorption panels at the front here are all the same to be decorative, if so, like, I totally get, make the room look how you want it to look.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to put anything in them. So if some of these four are empty, then, you know, I get it.
I would bet it's the outer two because the speakers are behind them.
Yes, we might see that in a drawing. Yeah, it will be. They're here, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So the speakers will be in there and there.
It's a good way to hide speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. So
I like that.
now John is on, and apologize, John, because we didn't tell you in advance that we were doing.
Well, this was actually supposed to be tomorrow, and Ben's like,
Yeah.
"We must go today." No, he didn't.
Yeah, we moved it. Sorry.
We moved it.
John, if you could answer, because we're not sure, it looked to me like these ceiling speakers are not in a straight line. Like the middle ones are wider. In the drawing, they're in a straight line. Are they built as they're drawn, or are they angled? You can.
While
give
he's
us an answer
answering
down
that,
here.
let's talk about the surround channels.
Yes. Right.
What's your feeling on those?
So we've got 3 down the sides positioned here. It's a similar thing to we discussed, John. Also, if you thought it was tomorrow. Yes, we did schedule it. It's our fault. Where is your main reference seat, John? We're unsure if it's your front or back row. The surround's doing the same, right? In my mind, right? Our side surround is going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
It's splitting the 2 rows. So it's pretty close to where I'd have it for the front row. I'd maybe shift it a tiny bit, but it's not far. You know, I like maybe 100 degrees. It's not far.
Where is it in elevation?
Oh, let me find.
Okay, so it's quite high.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't necessarily have a problem with that position. It's out of the way. It's not going to be firing into people's heads, blocking sound. I might put it, because it's higher, I might put it slightly forward, more forward. But it's hidden behind that panel, which I love.
Yes. Which panel are they behind? They are in. Hold on. Let me find the drawing. The room photo. It's going to be in this one here, right?
Correct.
Yeah. If the front row is the row that's used the most, that's pretty much bang where I'd have it. I would say, so there's a difference between the Dolby guidelines and what we would say. So Dolby guidelines officially are that the surround should be no lower than the LCR and up to 1.2 times higher. So you can be 20% higher within their spec. In other places, it's kind of a bit less defined. And before we had Atmos, it was generally accepted that surrounds can be higher or they're at bed level. A lot of people now would say they should be at ear level, the same level as the LCR. I will go up to a foot higher because I want it, if I'm in the middle, I want it to clear the heads of people around. Yeah. So 1 foot above seated ear height, as long as that's within 20% of the LCR, I'm absolutely fine.
So granted, I like smaller theaters with single rows. So I actually like positioning my side surround slightly ahead, and then I don't have to worry about height. Everybody gets a uniform experience. I'm okay. Yeah. And this is a perfect example of everybody's going to have a different opinion on what is correct. Now, something I don't necessarily like about that panel is we've created a boundary for that in-wall speaker with that panel. How do you feel about that? Because that panel right next to the edge, there is an edge that's creating a boundary. And I don't know what that's doing.
The depth. It would depend how deep the speaker is set in. If the speaker has been, the speaker could be framed out to be at the front of that panel.
It could be. And if that's the case, great. If not, I'm being nitpicky here, but we are creating a variance in how that speaker is going to behave. And now it's
Right.
asymmetrical.
Right.
So
Yeah.
something to consider.
An in-wall speaker. It is an in-wall, isn't it? It's been
Yes, it
designed as
is.
an in-wall. Yeah. Right.
They're
So
SCL6s.
the designer, when they create an in-wall, is expecting a flat baffle. So in the crossover, there's no compensation made for step diffraction off a cabinet because they're expecting essentially an infinite baffle, a flat wall.
Yep.
If that's quite close, if it's set back and quite close to that, actually we have created some diffraction like a speaker cabinet would have, like a freestanding cabinet, but the crossover in the in-wall won't take account of that. It's framed out wider than actual speakers. Right. So that has been done. So this isn't particularly a problem. Now, it's not exactly as the designer of a speaker will have expected it to be used because it's framed
I think what
forward of
he's
the
saying, though,
wall.
is that it's framed out wider than the actual speaker. So that panel is out a little bit, but it's 3.5 inches deep. So my assumption is that the speaker is at wall level and that piece of wood is sticking out in front of it,
Okay.
as we expect. Like you can see there, it's
Here,
sticking out in
right
front of
here.
it 3.5 inches. So you are going to get some diffraction, which we're nitpicking, but
Absolutely.
it is something that if you're designing a space from the ground up and you have the ability to minimize that, like you could have centered that panel over that speaker and now you have equal diffraction potentially on both sides. Still a compromise, but now it's not asymmetrical.
Yeah. I mean, there's a visual thing at play, isn't there? The lights
For
have been
sure.
given space.
Yes.
And these are always the cases. How do we juggle aesthetic and technical?
Mhm.
And there is no right or wrong answer. It's an interesting one, obviously. Like in our business, we kind of put a Chinese firewall up. So if I'm doing speaker layouts, I'm not the person working on interior design.
Mhm.
And then we'll argue our case together. So if it's like a Cinema Lusso job, Christian is designing the room as a look and feel and colors and textures and where all the decorative stuff is. I'll do technical and we'll argue it till we get where the client needs us to be. When you're responsible for both, you've got this internal, like most people are probably either more interior design focused or technical focused,
For
and
sure.
one will
Yes.
override the other. So we split that role up and we have a fight over it.
So Ben and I are absolutely on the more technical side of things than
Right.
aesthetic side of things, which I think is why we're being a little bit more nitpicky. It is important, as we highlighted multiple times, that this is a choice. This is a compromise. Every decision that is made in these spaces is a choice, and you compromise in some fashion. So, okay, moving on. Do you have any other issues with any of the surround channels? I really don't.
No, let's go back to top view. Hold on, which one was it? I've lost it. Where was it? Where's the one I'm after? Oh, it's that. I zoomed in. Sorry. No, I haven't actually taken the angle of a front wide. Let's do that live.
He does
'Cause-
say that the MLP is the front row.
Yeah, so I'm going to confirm whether I think the front wides are whether I would put them in
Let me
real
look up the
time.
specs
Let
for those
me
speakers.
find Vectorworks. Let me turn these layers off. Okay, so the way that we teach to find the front wide position is to draw a line from a surround to the left channel, find the midpoint of that line and draw it back to the RSP, and then extend it on the same angle. So the way we now teach where to put it, it would be here. So it would be shifted. If I zoom that in, we'd be ending up here. So we take we bisect surround to front, and the halfway point is where we put it. And that won't be the same angle both sides, but it's what we propose gives you the nicest spread and the evenest spread as a sound leaves the screen channels and moves to a surround. It's effectively halfway in what you hear, even though it's not halfway, because if a room was circular, it would be really obvious. But in a rectangular room, it actually means that the angle changes slightly.
Mhm.
That has only been industry recommended practice for what, like 3 years? I think his room probably predates that. And he said there's a support column exactly there. Right. Oh yeah, probably in here. So, you know, it's not far off where would be currently ideal. The angle works. I've got no issue with it. I do, I think, have an issue with it being that far off axis. If
Here's
it
the
is mounted
dispersion.
flat.
Here is the contour plots for the SCL6.
Let me just quickly check what these angles are. If I take a line here and I take a line to there, that one's not going to be too problematic. I don't have dimensions. 30 degrees. Okay, so for the front
You're
row,
right on the edge.
you're on the edge. Now for the second row, if I take worst case in the second row, and let's take this seat here because that's not being so mean. Take from here to here, 54 degrees. And our actual worst case, this is now being really mean. Our actual worst case is 70.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to see that speaker rotate, like build the wall out however you need to, angle that 30 degrees in so that we're pretty much on axis at the front. And then we're only 20 and 40 degrees off axis. That keeps even the worst seat. Let me see your screen. Let me enlarge it so I can see. Where's 40 degrees, Ryan? Okay, just south of that line. So if you angled that speaker 30 degrees, even the furthest off axis seat is only just getting into the area where that speaker's not at its best.
Yeah. Then
They're
you do
great,
create.
plus minus 30.
This is an in-wall speaker. So then you potentially create some boundary, negative
Sure.
boundary interactions or unforeseen boundary interactions, diffraction, different responses that are
Yeah.
not intended from that speaker. So it's a compromise, right? What are you going to do? And this is where it comes down to not saying you made the wrong choice of right tool for the right job, or is this doing something that you specifically wanted and you were willing to compromise in other ways because
Right.
of whatever that decision made you do?
So here's where I probably would have gone if I was starting this from scratch. I probably wouldn't have used an in-wall speaker.
Yeah.
I would have used an on-wall speaker, and ideally one that already has a wedge shape. Then I would have made sure all my side panels were big enough to hide it.
Mhm.
So, just take, and if Jeffrey's watching, he'll love it because we always use a Sendo as an answer. But take an Ascendo 6 wedge.
I can show that.
Can you grab one of those on screen?
Yep.
And they're not the only people who make them. Loads of people like, Theory, Pro Audio, loads of people make wedge or pre-angled speakers. But this is a good example of one that we both use. So let's use it. You can now mount that flat to the wall because it's already angled. And if you put that flat to the wall, build a box over it, that will put all of these seats way close to the sweet spot of that speaker. So again, we're nitpicking, and it depends if you can. As John said, there's a support column there. There's other things at play that we're not taking into account necessarily. But from scratch, I would probably have started with an on-wall wedge speaker. Same for the back. It's going to have the same effect. If we go to the back, let me find my drawing. Take this speaker. Hold on. Let me get my line tool. I've not kept this drawing neat and tidy. I apologize. But take this one to about here where I'm guessing the head is. Take it straight down there. What are we at on this surround? Yeah, nearly 50 degrees. So, yeah, I would have wanted to see them angled if it was possible.
The primary seat, the reference seating position is okay. As far as how surrounds interact with their angles. I think it could be better. But if your primary focus for the auditory experience is the reference seating position, then I think you're okay. I don't
Yeah.
think the
So
compromise is.
so Big Street's just asked an important question here that we didn't really explain well. So he's like, would an Ascendo surround mess up the JBL timbre matching? Oh, for sure.
Yes. We're
If
not
I was,
saying to use it instead.
yeah, if I was starting from scratch, I would
Yes.
be using a brand of speakers that had everything I needed for that project within a timbre matched range.
And maybe
So
JBL does. JBL
I,
could also have on-wall
yeah,
brackets that you're able to
you know,
angle
they
and do
showed
different
me one
things
when
with.
I was training with them because I don't know their range very well, which is really embarrassing considering I spent 2 days with them teaching them RP22. They do have one, don't they? They have an in wall which is pre-angled, and this may well be that. Does it say quickly bring? Where's the spec sheet up from this job? I've lost my pages.
They're SCL6s, so I don't think they're angled.
SCL6. No, there is a. I don't know which one it is, and it may not have existed when the job was done.
Are
But
you
there is
talking
an
about the
angled one.
SCL7
Is that what it is? Is it the
that
7?
has an off center tweeter? Are you talking about
Maybe.
this one? I'm gonna.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
see.
the 7. And the 7 is pre-angled.
Well, it's flat, but the tweeter is off axis, so it's this guy.
Right. So, right, if I'm committed to JBL at the front, then that would be my preference for those surround channels.
Still not ideal because the whole cabinet isn't angled, but
And
it
we've
is.
made a mistake, Ryan, because when you look at the John hasn't told us off here yet, but when we look at the spec list, the wides are JBL SCL7s.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Are they really?
Front wides are SCL7s.
We're a failure.
The surround backs aren't, or the second row of surrounds aren't, but the wides are SCL7s.
Okay, good on you, John.
So
Well done.
right. So we're criticizing things because we haven't read the room properly. But but the point stands of why we would have made those decisions, right? The learning is still
Yes.
good. In this case, they have picked the one that would be the right choice. I am all for that. It shows that design was done and considered. And you know when you get a set of drawings like this, that someone has bothered to put a protractor on it, right? So am I surprised that the designer chose the right speaker for those front wides? Not really, because they started with a drawing and they saw exactly what we just saw and they made the right choice. Well done, designer.
There you go. Now moving to the front stage. What's your feeling?
Okay. Let me find where I've hidden that. So if you share, let me replace screen with a different one now. Replace window here. Do we get, there's one that's in color. There we go. So, oh, okay, that's a cutscene. So we're seeing 4 subs. 2 of these are at the back of the room. Oh, sorry, 4 at the front and 4 at the back of the room. Because we're seeing right through the whole length of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Can we see them from a top view? Where are they? Let me zoom out. It's not that one. Here we go. Right. So the front ones are behind screen. The back ones are wider. Where's the door? Why am I being mad and not seeing a door at the moment? Where is the door? It's obviously in this other front corner, isn't it?
I think it's front. Go back to that image there. Nope.
Oh,
Front right. The
oh,
center
yeah.
of the room. It's right
Yeah,
there.
okay, got it. It's over there. Yeah, with a panel on the back of it. Okay, so the door's not the problem here. I'm
Nope.
intrigued, and it might be that there's steel work and things you couldn't get them. There's a reason, obviously, why the fronts and the backs aren't symmetrical. Those drawings are not updated to the M2, so originally, okay. So I'd need to do some modal modeling to find out what the reason is. My starting point would be that they would be quarter of the distance of the room in, front and back. We covered that in the episode we did on room modes, why that's where I'd start from. I'd need to model it. I like the fact that there is a mix front and back. I think they are nicely going to be mitigating the room mode at halfway point, which is basically where the front row seats are. So this would not work well if you would only put subs front or back, like, because you're going to get room modes on that halfway point, and those seats are pretty much at the halfway point of the room. So having subs front and back is an absolute given where these seats are. Yeah, pretty. You know, I'm not certain why in the drawing they're pulled off the front wall, so they're pulled up to the screen. My gut feel would be to push them back to the wall, get as much boundary gain off them as I could, and get them as far away from the screen as I can so they don't make the screen vibrate.
Yeah. I agree. Would you have stacked them?
Maybe. So I'm going to presume this predates waveforming. If I had this many subs to play with now, I'd probably be looking for a waveforming layout. That would probably be my option to go. But predating that, if you've got enough from the layout to mitigate the room modes you need to mitigate, stacking them will give you more SPL efficiency than separating them. So not concerned at all about them being stacked. I think they've probably been positioned with thought. I think, you know, the designers seen way more of this than we did. I think he's probably got it right.
Yeah, I would agree. John says
he said they are against the wall now.
back, they're against the wall. So he's made some adjustments. That is good. This goes back, as Ben just said, it's boundary interaction. And people don't think about that enough, that your boundary is a lot of what you hear. Remember, sound is omnidirectional. How much of that energy is going back and forward is a lot frequency dependent. But with subs, a lot of that is going to be omnidirectional. So it's going in all directions. And if you can redirect that sound that is going away from you back towards you, you're just reinforcing and adding. It's all additive to that main wave. So putting them against a boundary and getting it closer to time aligned with that main wave, it's going to be heavily beneficial.
So the only thing we haven't hugely talked about on that is the acoustic treatment on the middle of the back wall. I think they're Vicoustic, aren't they?
They look like it, yes.
I've not used
diffuser.
Yeah, I've not used them, but I actually have pitched them in a project once, and we didn't use them a few years back. But I think they make a really nice. If they do what the designer needs, and I'm sure the designer's used them loads of times and knows what they want, you're getting some high frequency scattering, which I don't hate there, right? That's a nice place for it. You're getting some absorption. It's pretty, it's decorative. If it does what they needed it to do acoustically, I'm on board with that. I
definitely like the diffusion over the absorption on the back wall. I'm not a fan of full absorption on the back wall. I think it removes, and again, this comes back to what are you after in your space? But for me, I want the immersive bubble, and removing that reflection feels unnatural to me. So having it diffused is much more natural, and I like that choice. I personally have never used those wave diffusers, but I'm on board with that implementation.
Yeah, I'm guessing some mid-frequency absorption, some high-frequency scattering. I'm down with it. Hey, we have a bit of a philosophy acoustically that differs from many. So ideally to me, the reason I like bad panels basically on every surface is that the sound from every speaker hits the same kind of treatment anywhere. So the surrounds are hitting the same amount of scattering and absorption as the fronts, as the overheads, everything. It doesn't matter which surface it hits, it behaves the same.
Yeah.
So this obviously is a bit different. You've got like the first reflections from the LCR are being absorbed quite a lot, but actually from like some of those surrounds, they'll be firing over into that, getting more scattering. It's fairly traditional. People have been doing this a lot, like, you know, almost a live end, dead end, bring in more scattering at the back, more absorption at the front. It's not the way that we currently design rooms, but it's not to say it's wrong. It's just not the philosophy we follow.
To me, my philosophy is I want to recreate something that is natural. And a dead room does not sound natural. I want the experience to be your brain to go, that makes sense, right? I'm in a room that does not pull me out of whatever is happening. I want to walk into a room and be able to have a conversation and my brain not go, this is a weird room. That's not the way that I want to have an experience. So dead room, live room up front and in the back, it's never been my thing. And
Right.
having a room that is more immersive, surrounding and encompassing, not only to me is more engaging, but I think it is much more, the experience is more universal from seat to seat. You don't have to worry about, is this seat more dead? Is this seat more live? If everything is being treated the same, it makes that a lot easier to implement and integrate.
So I'm just going to confirm the Atmos channels are SCL8s. Is the 8 a angled speaker after everything I have thought of angling? What does the 8 do? Loudspeakers, SCL8s.
Yes, it is.
Right. So, yeah, that's, again, a pre-angled, makes some sense. You know, hey, I would like them a bit wider, I think, based on where they appeared in the drawing. What did John say? He said he moved them.
He moved them for channel separation. They were wider.
Okay. And I can totally see that with the coffer, like, and the reflection stuff and the fact they're angled. I can get that. If they needed to come in to get that separation and create more of a height effect, sure, I'm there.
Yeah. I like their placement given the room. There's too many boundary interactions on the outsides when they're that wide. And I totally understand the channel separation. Otherwise, it just sounds like it's all coming from the same place. So I like the decision. Moving them in more, as long as you know what type of experience that's going to create, fully on board with that. I love it. Love the aesthetics of the room, like that choice. Don't have any issues with that. Let's talk about amplification a little bit. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it. This is using a JBL 58, which, if I remember right, is a Trinnov?
The JBL
SDP 58. Up. Down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay, fine. The SDP, is that the Trinnov or is that the Arcam based one? Products, electronics. The 80 is definitely Trinnov based. The 75 is Trinnov based. The 58 is not. The 58
so
is,
it's an Arcam.
I'm not sure we're allowed to call it an Arcam and address without being sued, but it's an Arcam and address.
They were made in the same factory.
They're all the same company now. Yeah. I mean, the Trinnov obviously is a JBL licensing.
It lost some features that the big Trinnov had, but yes, it is.
Sure.
It was.
It's made under license. You know, it's a Trinnov made product under a JBL name.
Yeah.
Whereas this Arcam and JBL essentially it's different desks in the same office. So yeah, which means it runs Dirac Live.
Yes. It's got bass control is as far as it goes.
Yeah.
I don't think it got art.
You know, it's in keeping with the budget of the room. It gives you enough channels they needed. I don't have any concerns with that. Like, do I think you could potentially get a slightly better result if you'd gone up to the SDP 75? Sure.
He does say he's going to Trinnov CI.
Yes.
So that is
Right.
happening. When he does that, I think waveforming could potentially be on the cards. May have to move the subs a little bit in the back, though you can play with flexibility, especially depending on what's in the wall, which we don't know what's in that back wall,
Yeah.
depending on absorption, because it will, if you have fewer subs in the back, I don't know what he's putting those BTS up front. So he can't really do waveforming. Different subs. Uh, I mean, you
Yeah.
can, in a way, if those BTS were only going to be used for infrasonics, but integrating different subs with different phasing and things with waveforming can
Right.
become an
I've seen
issue.
people try. It's not
It's
something I would want to
no.
do. I mean, what we've done here is we have a 6x4 array of 21s, and then we bring our infra in independently. So
Yeah. You and
the
I do
what
the same
yeah,
thing.
right. So the waveforming just wouldn't if you add a couple of 24s and you move to waveforming, you just don't declare those in waveforming,
Yes.
and then use an active crossover to
Using a
bring them
110F,
in. Sorry?
using a
Ah,
QSD.
well, it depends. You can do it inside the Trinov using an active crossover in the Trinov. So you would set some of the subwoofers to be two-way speakers
Oh,
and turn off part of like so you would just turn off the amplifier that drives them while you take the measurements. So as far as the system is concerned, there is only the actual number of subs you've got, and then you bring them back in as channels multiplied off the channels you took them from. In our room, it works because we've got 6 at the front. We can position the 32 next to the front middle, and we essentially are duplicating the signal to it. But the way we filtered it, it's only playing below audible range.
oh, I
It
see what you
works.
did.
Um, we've got a 110F in the system, but we use it for other stuff. But
Mm.
it was experimental. I don't think anyone had ever done waveforming with independent infra when we built this. So, as much as anything, we were learning if it was
Yeah,
possible.
you and I
Um,
think we did it at similar time points. We just did it differently. I did the 110F and you did it all internal with the crossovers. Um,
yeah,
so I
and
think the Chernoff will be beneficial in this space,
mhm.
especially for how it handles phasing. You get you get FIR filters, you get some nice things that can be beneficial. Um,
So
so
he's
I
saying
do like that.
he can't move the subs, so that's fine. And then Big Street said, why don't you use Storm and go with Dirac Art?
You could.
Um, it's an option. I hey, I'm still yet to hear Art sound the way I'd like to hear it sound. So I'm I'm still in the camp that I'm yet to be impressed by Art. I know there are other people who love it and love what it does. I'm just not one of them. There, I said it.
I think it depends on the room. If you've got a more asymmetrical room, art can be an extremely powerful tool. Uh, it's a tool. Again,
Sure.
harp on this all the time. Is it the correct tool for that implementation? Is the Chernov and what it's doing with waveforming the correct implementation? Use the tool for the correct purpose instead of um, just using everything as a hammer. So have a thought, have conversations with people about what makes the most sense because they're both exceptional. They're both
Right.
very good at what they do. And frankly, there's some things that Chernov does that the Storm can't. And there's some things that the Storm can do that Chernov can't. So
And there's things that the Storm does that I'm sure the Trinov could do if they just implemented what we asked for. But I'm well aware they've got loads of things they want to implement that are more
yes,
important than the stuff we
they
asked for.
both do.
But
Both companies do.
God,
Uh,
wouldn't
I
it be
like them both.
wonderful? Like
I like them both.
The Storm has one specific thing when you calibrate it that is just lovely. I can put any test tone into the front left channel and
Oh
I can
man,
output
it's
it anywhere I
amazing.
want.
Yes.
Just please give me that Trinov,
It is
please.
amazing. I will
Please.
say I have them both in my room, and they both do different things
Right.
better than the other.
And with the CI, this changes because obviously we're now routing everything over Dante. Like it's a completely different ball game because routing becomes completely different.
Mhm.
So yeah, hey, they're very different. I just think one sounds better than the other. But
What do you think about the amplification?
where are we at on the amplification?
It's
So it's
crowns for
all
the
they all
JBL
crowns.
M2s and then audio control.
The audio controls are a decent product.
Mhm.
I don't know the crown range well enough to remember what the noise floor is on those,
I
and
think the JBL is designed to use crowns.
fine. It's a possibility if the noise floor on that particular model is not great, that you get the hiss like we discussed with Adam the other day.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to look now and see if I can see what the noise floor is on them. Uh, where is the spec sheet? Okay, what are we talking?
They make you drill down
Yeah, right. And I'm
specifications.
not
I'm
seeing
gonna
it in the
share
specs.
this.
I'm not seeing a signal to noise ratio or anything like that in the spec. Oh, you're on a different page. Oh, that's the M2. Right, I'm looking at the amplifier. They're obviously a very sensitive. Oh, it's a 92 sensitive dB speaker.
So
That's
you could
right.
get away with it.
It's sensitive though. I'm sure that crown is the right choice. I just don't know it well enough to know how much hiss there may
Yeah,
be,
you
how
can
much
see
drill.
right here that they're specifically designed to use crown amplifiers, and my
Fine.
guess is when that was built, the
That
room,
was the
or
one.
when those M2s were built, it was for those crown amps, so
Fine. Makes sense.
I don't have a problem with that, and I don't it Ben and I don't have a problem with crown amps, it's
No,
just
no, no.
something to consider. They make an excellent product.
Some
QSC,
right.
crown, excellent.
Yeah,
They
there are
just
just some crown amps, and I don't know the range very well. There are some that have got massive amounts of gain with a high noise floor. If you put them on a sub that needs a lot of power, isn't very sensitive, great. If you put it on a really sensitive screen channel, it'll hiss.
not
And
great.
these are not those crowns, right? These crowns are the
Use
right crowns.
use the proper tool for the proper job.
Right.
Everything's not a hammer. Again, please do that. It's very important. If you haven't watched it already, go watch Adam's um, "Why Do My Speakers Hiss" video that we did with him. It explains a lot on gain and why that's important. And it doesn't mean that that amp is bad. It just means it was designed to be implemented in a different way.
Yeah.
So don't take that as, "Oh, crown sucks." That's not what we're saying. What we're saying
So
is it's got a use case.
yeah. Just before we wrap up, Superfly just asked, how close or far away would you put the subs from the screen? So, depending on screen fabric, what the material is, how porous it is, if it's woven or perforated, and what's happening to the side. So, if you've got like a solid wall that you've created space for subs and there's nowhere for pressure to escape round the screen, I
Mhm,
probably want a bit more space. I
mhm.
basically want the pressure to not have to go straight into that screen, and the only place it can go is into that screen. So if you've got some venting and actually pressure can go around the screen, that's preferable. Ideally I'm going to be a foot. Like I don't really want subs to be closer than a foot. You can't always do it. Like we've definitely done jobs where we've put in wall subs and the screen is hung right in front of them and there's 3 inches. It is what it is, right? Sometimes you just can't avoid it. But if I'm
You can
using big subs, especially if I was going to say put like a 24 behind a screen, I want a foot at least.
you can get away with more with woven because there's more area.
Yeah.
There are more holes per area, right? So you have more space for energy to get through the screen. If you do it, and this is why typically perforated screens have more audio attenuation and they require you or want you to put the screen further away from the speaker, is because they want you to have more holes for the energy to pass through. Woven has more holes for the energy to pass through. So you can get away with a little bit more with a woven screen, having the speaker or subwoofer closer, but it does not mean that it is immune to it. I think it's also important if you have a ported sub that is pointed directly at the screen, if it's getting into a lot of energy coming out of the port, you could create um, a little bit of flapping. You could do that even without the port, but it comes down to the size, what your energy is that you're trying to do. The more, the better. But it is what it is if you got to get close. So, anything else with this? I got no issues with the sources. I got no issues with power distribution. Well, actually, on the power distribution, I would not put any type of power distribution system on an amp. You could castrate them a little bit and limit their capabilities. Um, I don't really have any other issues. I didn't
No,
really have any issues with this room to begin with. We were being
no.
hypercritical.
Um, I mean, right, let's be, if we're going to be really critical, just because I've got a spec in front of me, I mean, this is going to show that I have first world problems now. I can't even believe I'm going to say this out loud.
Come on.
I couldn't live with only 8 terabytes on my Kscape. It's an 8K, it's an 8K, 8 terabyte Kscape. I couldn't cope with it. Like, I need more.
Mm,
I can't remember what we're at now, 32 terabytes or something, and we can still fill it up and
yeah,
have to
I've got a
keep adding
48.
storage.
And this
I'm not.
depends.
Yeah, I just don't like deleting content and having to
Exactly.
re-download
This
it.
depends on your
I'm really
personality.
lazy.
If you're more of a collector or if you're okay
Yeah.
deleting content, I like seeing everything.
Right.
It would be super cool, and I kind of understand now thinking about it why Kscape doesn't do this. If they would allow you to see the cover art of everything, even if you don't have it downloaded.
Sure.
But they don't do that because they want you to buy more storage.
Yeah, right. Now, I
So-
mean, so for me, it's a little bit different because our cinema is at the office, not on my home. So if I bring my kids here, they're going to walk in and then choose what they want to watch. If it was at our house, you'd sit and go through and go, right, what should we go watch? Before we even walk to the cinema, right? You talk about what we're going to watch, download it, fine, right? Well, you can wait 10, 15 minutes, whatever, for it to download.
Yeah.
If I walk in here with my kids on a Saturday, they want to sit in front of a wall of films, pick something, and we start watching it. So, you know, it's the most first world problem I could possibly have, but I
Well, we
need more
both
than
have
8
that problem.
terabytes of Kscape.
So
I
it's
know
okay.
how ridiculous we sound.
I'm about ready to run out of space on my 48, especially with the new cinematic content coming out. I guess if I'm being nitpicky, John, I've done the comparison between the both. The K is worth it. It
Right.
is better. Like it is the cinematic content is better. It is not marketing. I've put it right up against my C with other people. It is better. And we're actually going to demo that at M Wave. We'll have 2 screens, K versus C, so that people can be able to see what's going on. But it's yeah, I got no problems with this.
Well,
I mean,
we will. I think John missed the very start when we talked video. So if I was going to upgrade it, I'm getting a Heimdall Plus, right? That's the upgrade. If you want to throw more money at it, would I actually?
you're
Spend
talking about the theater in general.
Yeah, right. I'm just thinking, would I really spend more money on more storage? Probably not. Would I
No.
throw a Heimdall Plus in there? Hell
Yes.
yeah. Heimdall Plus is the right projector for that room all day long.
If it goes in the room, yes.
Right.
If you can get it out of the room, like if you could build something into the soffit at the backside of the box vault, you could potentially do like a Christie M4K or something and get even more light out of it. But
I don't think there is any option of that because I think he said there is a window behind that acoustic diffuser. So I think that's an
I was
external
talking
wall.
about in the box vault, in the ceiling.
Oh, sure. Okay. But I'm saying like you couldn't put a
No.
big projector in a room behind that. You can't, there's
No.
no projection room here.
No.
So if it's going in the room and you've got no ventilation to take out, Heimdall Plus.
Yeah.
Quieter,
choice.
brighter, native cinema scope. Heimdall
It's
Plus.
marvelous. It is a
It's
great
a lot
projector.
of cash. Right, let's be fair. It's a lot of cash. And we're going end game. What would we do if we could do anything? Heimdall Plus.
This is an end game theater. Let's be real.
Right, 100%.
So we're throwing end game product at you because that's where we're
You
at.
know, the problem with these reviews is nobody sent us anything rubbish. So it'd be really easy to be really critical of stuff. These are hard because they're all really
They
good.
are. This is the second room in 4 weeks with M2s.
Right.
Guy, who's watching this?
Power on tap. Like they're just there. Right. It's the right choices. They've picked the right wides. They've done a great job. Well
Yeah.
done to the designer, whoever he is. Well done. Right. Pat on the back from us.
Good job. Well done. All right, guys. So we stream these live or try and do them every Thursday. I will not be here Thursday. I'm on vacation, but we try and do these live every Thursday at 8 a.m. Central. What is that UK time? You're 5 hours ahead of me?
2 p.m. we start here.
Okay, 6 hours. 2 p.m. GMT? Is that GMT?
We must be on BST currently.
BST. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 p.m. BST. If you guys need any help with kit, if you need any help with design, do not hesitate to reach out to Ben or I. Our contact information is in the description down below. I got nothing else. We'll wrap this one up. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We do these every Thursday. Again, if you'd like to see them live, feel free to join us on YouTube at 8 a.m. CST or 2 p.m. BST. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the World Cup this weekend. Stay safe out there. Enjoy those home theater journeys, and we will see you in the next video.
Cheers.